This video is on a specific type of market failure, which is imperfect information and information failure. So as already mentioned, it is a type of market failure, but it is where individuals or firms have a lack of information about economic decisions. Now, how they don't have the adequate information is because of four major factors. 1, the information is inaccurate. 2, it's incomplete. 3, the economic agent is uncertain about the information, or they misunderstand the data that is presented to them. And because of all these four factors, or potentially one of the four, the economic agent potentially makes the wrong choice, which distorts the allocation of resources. So what we're going to focus on in this video is asymmetric information. And before I do anything, I'm just going to show you a clip from one of my favourite films, The Big Short, where it looks at this concept of asymmetric information, where there's a mortgage broker who has more information about the product that they are selling to their customers.
So is Morgan Stanley recruiting us? Is that?
Oh, no. No, the bank owns our hedge fund, but we're not really a part of it. We invest in financial service companies, and we're trying to understand the residential mortgage business.
How many loans do you write each month?
About 60.
Yeah. What was it 4 years ago?
10, maybe 15.
Yeah, I was a bartender. Now I own a boat.
You own a boat. So how many of these are adjustable rate mortgages?
Well, most. Yeah, I'd say about 90%. The bonuses on those skyrocketed a few years ago. Adjustables are bread and honey.
So do applicants ever get rejected?
Seriously? Look, if they get rejected, I suck at my job.
Well, even if they have no money?
Well, my firm offers ninja loans. No income, no job. I just leave the income section blank if I want. Corporate doesn't care. These people just want homes, and they go with the flow. Good for you.
Your companies don't verify.
If I write a loan on Friday afternoon, big bank is going to buy it by Monday lunch.
Yeah, same here.
Could you hold on a second? I don't get it. Why are they confessing?
They're not confessing.
They're bragging.
Do people have any idea what they are buying?
I focus on the immigrants. Once they find out they're getting a home, they sign where you tell them to sign. Don't ask questions. Don't understand the rates.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah.
And you target immigrants too.
We can see that there's actually two different types of asymmetric information. One between the mortgage broker and the customer, and 2 between the mortgage broker and the investment bank who is buying that mortgage off them. So with regards to obviously the customer, they are misleading the customers with mortgage offers, which again, in this example, they mentioned certain types of customers, maybe immigrants who have language barriers or don't understand the American rates, and therefore they do not have the information, or they misunderstand the information, and therefore they shouldn't be making this type of decision based on what is being presented to them. And the second one, the investment banks, and again you could argue, well, why they're not doing the investigation into what these products are and whether they are risky or not. But the mortgage brokers are not providing full information to the investment banks about how the mortgage is being offered and so on. So when we're looking at different types of asymmetric information, one of them that we have to consider is moral hazard. And what we mean by moral hazard is it occurs when a company or an individual takes on increased risk because it does not personally bear the full consequences of that high risk. So they do not mind, in that example, giving away these very, very risky mortgages because they know that they won't actually bear the full consequences if those mortgages are not repaid, and it obviously turns into defaults because the investment bank has already bought it off them by, for example, Monday lunchtime, as they said in the video. So the next example that I'm going to give you is based on inaccurate data. And there's been quite a bit of research in recent times based on calories and the information that is being presented. Now, in some Western countries, the government have intervened and forced information to be provided by firms to the customer so they're aware of what they're consuming. So then obviously if they have that calorie information, they can make the right decision with regards to what they should be buying and what they should be eating. However, there has been some accusations that some of the information that's been presented is actually inaccurate. So I'm just going to show you another video now.
In New York City, most chain restaurants are required to post calorie information on their menus.
Yeah, the barbacoa burrito.
And soon, because of Obamacare, all restaurants with more than 20 locations will be required to post calorie counts. It's like how the FDA requires labels on packaged foods. The idea is pretty basic. When you know how much you're eating, you tend to eat less.
We found that 20% of the foods we tested had 100 calories or more over what was stated on the menu. And we would consider that to be a considerable amount. I know that that may not sound like a lot, but if someone were to consume 100 calories extra per day for a year, they could gain up to 10 pounds, so that could really be a problem.
A favorite snack of mine are these vegetarian sandwiches. They taste okay and are vegan, kosher, and according to the label only have 228 calories. Plus, in big, bold, italic red letters, it says healthy. And this healthy sandwich took the trophy for the biggest inaccuracy. Actual calorie content was nearly double what the label said, giving this sandwich about the same amount of calories as a Big Mac. Not cool.
Cheesecake Factory's fish and chips dinner was over by a full 420 calories. That's like drinking 3 cans of sugary soda on top of your meal.
So as you can see from the video, there are some challenges with calculating calories and the process involved. And that's why in the majority of countries that do force companies to inform the public of calories in their meals, and they do accept a range. So for example, in the US, they do accept a 20% range. And in some cases, we've got sit-down restaurants where you can imagine it's very, very difficult to say for every single one of their restaurants what the calories are going to be, because in every single sit-down restaurant, the chef might prepare it in a slightly different way. But I suppose it's their job to try to make that as realistic as possible. In fast food restaurants, it seems to be easier because they have that uniformed and that consistent formula of making the meals. But even looking at this slide here and looking at the expectation versus the reality and seeing McDonald's, so the expectation or the information that's provided is 510 calories in chips, but that's been proven to be inaccurate. And actually, in the majority of cases, when it has been tested, it's 594 calories. Or the expectation for example, a Big Mac, 540 calories, but actually, when they've tested it, it was 702 calories, so McDonald's have had to act. So even when there are health studies based on certain foods, we also have to look a little bit, I suppose, delve a little bit deeper into that research to see who's funded it. And this was an article by The Guardian in terms of the information that we're actually receiving. Can we trust that information, or does it have to be, I suppose, made sure to be as accurate and not biased as possible? Now, there's other ways of trying to get information to the customers. It's not just based on menus. We think about cigarettes and we think about the packaging. But also, if you think about the sugar tax, and think about how that tax revenue was hypothecated towards physical education, trying to educate the young, because obviously with childhood obesity on the rise. So these are all different ways of trying to provide information and try to avoid that imperfect information or even information failure. Now, the reason why we're trying to achieve this, and we have to look at it from a private point of view, and if we're consuming, for example, or over-consuming these demerit goods, if we're over-consuming them and they're harmful to the consumer, then we do have to think about the private benefits involved, because remembering that the private benefits, they don't just involve the producer, but they also involve the consumer as part of the transaction. So if we've got, and we're doing it from a consumption point of view, so we're not spending too much time on the marginal private costs. What we're going to be looking at is the marginal private benefit instead. And if we have a look at it with the original information, it's being consumed at Q1. But as soon as that information is either obviously published to the customer, or actually more information has come out, whether that previous information has been tested to see how accurate it is, and now it's become more accurate, but this new information allows it where consumers can consume at the rate which they should be consuming at, for example Q2. If they're aware of how unhealthy, for example, the foods are, and they're actually aware that the calorie information is more accurate, then they're more educated, and they can make those decisions in a much more rational manner. So if we return to these examples of imperfect information or information failure in relation to asymmetric information, we can also look at monopoly of knowledge as well. So in a monopoly of knowledge, only a select few individuals are presented with the necessary information to understand the situation and make decisions, meaning that obviously one economic agent has that information, but the other economic agent they do not have the access or the ability to access that information. So you could think about it from, for example, a government point of view, where actually the government might have a security clearance to be informed of privileged intelligence. Or you could have companies which have full access to other companies' information, or shareholders who have full access to company information. Or maybe it's just provided to them by a third party, which the customer would not have access to. So when we're talking about asymmetric information, it also can be related to in terms of adverse selection. So if you do see that term, it's very, very similar, just with regards to one economic agent having more information than the other.